Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the celebration of Kermit Phipps' life and dedication of this EMC laboratory that he built for us. My name is Hash Hashemian. I'm president of this company. I want to welcome all of you here. I thank you all for coming. We have a few speakers that will talk about the life of Kermit Phipps and the work that he did for us. As you can see, he built a beautiful lab here for us in less than 1 year. This work normally takes 3 or 4 years. If I was going to do it, it would take 10 or 20 years. We did it all in 1 year. I used to kid around with him and complain that he's spending too much money, buying too much stuff all the time. And he would show up and get another PO, get a hard time from me. Now I know that he really did a fantastic job, something that we are very proud of, and he did it at a very short time and a reasonable amount of money. Kermit was the director of our EMC laboratory, as you all know, and he will always be the director of our EMC laboratory. We are going to keep that title forever for Kermit, and we're not going to replace him. Now, I want to introduce Cliff Briggs, who worked very closely with Kermit in this lab. He's going to talk about his experience working with Kermit and the Kermit's life. Then Dan Beverly is going to talk, and then we are going to close with a presentation by Jan Horashi, and before we unveil the plaque of the dedication of this laboratory to Kermit. This plaque is going to go to the top of the door on the laboratory, so that anybody who comes to this lab can first see Kermit's plaque. Tom Key from the FE is going to talk, and if there are other people who want to talk about Kermit, they're welcome to do so after Tom Key. Now, once we're finished here, we're going to move to Building A, where we're going to serve dinner and mingle and talk. Once again, thank you for being here, and I'd like for you to come here and continue. Thank you.
Good evening. It's good to be here with so many friends of Kermit's in this lab where he spent so much of his time. Kermit was a good friend and a mentor to me and many of the rest of us. One of the professional achievements that Kermit was most proud was the creation of this laboratory, which is being dedicated today in his honor. Kermit was a brilliant man and an accomplished engineer. Some of you are aware of his work at EPRI, where the work he did led to safer and more reliable power, and also electrical devices. And he was the chair of technical committee for P1560 of the IEEE, where he worked with others in the group to develop more meaningful methods of evaluating the effectiveness of filters, which was very important work. He was also on the board of directors of the IEEE EMC Society. While Kermit's contributions to the greater EMC community are substantial, what meant a lot to me and those of us that worked with Kermit was his role as a mentor to us here at AMS. In my career, I've had some excellent teachers, and none of them have come anywhere near the level of knowledge and the givingness of time and sharing of knowledge and experience that Kermit provided. And each new project here at AMS brings with it new challenges. And Kermit always had a unique way of looking at problems and providing innovative solutions. And we always learn from those new problems. He was patient with new engineers and always looking for opportunities to provide learning experiences. And he would often set up demonstrations to help us learn and understand concepts better and provide a practical application. Those of us who were fortunate enough to be mentored by and work closely with Kermit will, of course, always remember Kermit and all of the things that he taught us and this lab that he created. And from this day forward, it's great to know that, and I'm sure Kermit would be very pleased, that it will be the EMC, the Kermit Phipps EMC Laboratory. So, thank you.
Thank you, Cliff. Cliff is one of our senior EMC laboratory managers. We're very lucky to have him. Dan Beverly has worked for AMS for 250 years.
That's about true.
And he does everything. He used to be our best engineer, best accountant, best marketing guy, and best everything. We call him chief engineer, but he's chief of everything. He also, Kermit and him, we're always talking at like 7 or 8 o'clock. When I was going home, I would go say goodbye to him, and him and Kermit they're doing something and talking about stuff. Of course, I always came in and complained about how much money these guys were spending. So Dan is going to talk to you about his experience with Kermit.
If you all can hear me, I'm not going to use the microphone. Anybody who can't hear me?
Can't hear you now.
Except for Daryl. Look. I made myself some notes. Usually I don't speak from notes, but there were some things I wanted to remember to tell you guys about Kermit. I only knew Kermit for a short time while he was here at AMS. His reputation really preceded him from his 15, 20 years in the industry working in EMC and EMI RFI. I realized as soon as he was here, and I think a lot of us did, that he was a special, one-of-a-kind person, a character actually, that was a pleasure to work with and unique in a lot of the things that he did. I think, to me, the things that stand out was that, or at least one of the things was, he had this tremendous drive and determination, and he had a passion for this work, as you can see by this lab that he created. As Hoss was saying, he would come to my office a lot, but during the day, I remember he would come and he would blow into my office, and he had a solution to a problem or a new idea, and I thought, wow, every time he comes in, he reminds me of an old Western sheriff, you know. He's got both guns blazing, and he's ready to get the posse together and go get the bad guys. Well, every time he would come in, I kept seeing that picture, and I said, I know, I'm going to call him Yosemite Kermit. I felt like he was the kind of guy who needed a good nickname, and that was just about perfect. I think he liked it too, because he would always smile when we called him Yosemite Kermit. We shared a lot of coffee together. We shared some lunches together. We would go to Lenny's Subs, and he would get this big long chicken thing, and he could eat it all. And I think we may have had a food-related friendship, because we both had a little problem. He had a saying that's really stuck with me, though. He said that you couldn't have a legitimate place of business if you didn't have donuts to go with your coffee in the morning. So a lot of times he would bring in donuts, and a lot of times we would bring in donuts to share with our coffee. When we got together for those lunches or coffee, we had the opportunity to talk. Really, we could talk about anything. But with Kermit, it always turned to his work. His understanding, his new ideas. It was many, many days, as Hosh has said, that he would come to my office at the end of the day, and everybody's going home, and he and I would still be here talking about a new idea. And if you look in his office, what used to be his office, all the drawings on the whiteboard, my whiteboard would look the same. It would be all marked up. I think he really loved the industry that he worked in. He cared for all the other people that were part of the small circle of EMC people. he was really an expert to those people. Worked in the highest levels of the industry. The culmination, I guess, of his plan, his dream to build this lab was something of which he was very, very proud. I was telling someone a while ago that he knew how to use everything in here. And if I come over and needed to use something, I've got to go find the manual, you know, and read it. He was a scientist. He liked to experiment and tinker and find the answer to problems using practical things like resistors and capacitors and the primary building blocks of electronic circuits. He was a very smart man, a brilliant man. He, during his short period at AMS, he made us all better in our understanding of the field he loved. I think AMS is better for the short walk that he made through our life, and the inspiration, I guess, and the example that he gave us for being the right kind of hard-working, determined person, especially about something that he was very passionate about. The work we do here in this laboratory, which he built, wouldn't have been built if he hadn't had a dream, or a plan, a vision for what it should be. But the work we do here, that we continue to do here, thanks to the smart young engineers who still apply their trade here, is just an extension, a continuation of his plan. Thank all of you for coming. I appreciate it very much. You're all friends, family, co-workers, admirers of Kermit Field.
Thank you. Now you know why he's everything in this company. Well, Jan is going to talk. When Kermit passed away, we cried a lot. But Cliff and Jan are the ones who cried the most. And I want Jan to come and tell us her experience with Kermit.
Like Dan, I have to rely on my notes. So, you've heard many comments and details on the professional and technical contributions of Kermit, both to the EMC community and to the conception, development, and success of our AMS EMC Lab. I'm not an engineer, but I certainly appreciate, as much as anyone, the technical intellect and the amazing level of knowledge that Kermit held and contributed to this organization. But completely on the non-technical side, more as the person that I saw. I've never met a gentleman quite like Kermit Fitt. To me, he was a unique individual in many ways. Kermit was never shy about expressing his opinion. Some of you may know that, and with passion. We could adamantly disagree on topics, but never argue. He would get red in his face, as Dan was describing, as a result of the excitement for the moment, whether it be reaching a new success or sharing the potential opportunities and pathway for his vision for this EMC lab. Kermit always showed his continued respect and commitment to both the industry and the AMS organization by attempting to move both to higher levels. He had a passion for both that was obvious to everyone that came into contact with him. There were not enough hours in the day to do all the things he felt needed to be done, so he worked many long hours and nights. Things just couldn't move fast enough or big enough for Kermit. He could be a little stubborn, as some of you also may know, but I think this was mainly driven by his enthusiasm and for the potential of the EMC lab at AMS. But at the end of the day, he always accommodated the requests of Hosh. Today we remember Kermit as we celebrate the scientist, the innovator, the inventor, but mostly the man of passion and commitment. He taught us about work ethic, long hours, and his dedication. On behalf of the AMS employees, I can say that it was an honor to know him, to work with him, and to learn from him. It's very appropriate to all of us that this evening we dedicate this lab to the honor and memory of our friend Kermit Phipps. Thank you.
All right. I want to tell you a little bit about this flag we have on the way. You and anybody else who wants to say things about Kermit are welcome to come and take the microphone. But Tom is going to be after this. But I want to tell you a little bit about what's behind this curtain. This woman has been working tirelessly for the last 2 months to get the flag made the way I like it. I wanted a bust of Kermit, so we ordered that, and it was supposed to be made from Kermit's picture that we had. And it came, and they called me and said, "Bust is here, come look at it." And I noticed they were a little bit nervous. I said, "Is it good?" They said, "Yeah, it's good." And so I came and I said, "Well, this guy doesn't look like Kermit. I don't want it." So well, they made it. So you have to take it. I said, "No, I'm not taking this." So they said there's no time to make a real bust of Kermit. I say, "Ever must look exactly like Kermit." So they replaced that with something else, then we done these photographs, and finally we came on. Thanks to Michelle here. This is Michelle Harris, who has been working on a lot of aspects of this party and Kermit's dedication. So she finally pulled it off. Now you're going to be the judge to see if this is what you would have liked, but I like it. So if Jan, if you would come here, me and Jan from this side, and Kermit and Cliff, and Dan from the other side are going to take this. Are you ready? As you can see, this is definitely Kermit Phipps. He always looked like this. And as Jan said, he argued, he was a black and white guy. If he wanted to do something, that's the way he wanted to do it. But he always told me, "Hosh, I'll do it the way you wanted to do it. But I don't think you should do it that way." And every time I look at him, I remember talking to him about things. So, ladies and gentlemen, Tom, please. We worked with Kermit at Eppley, and she was Kermit's boss.
Thank you, Hans. Wow, that's beautiful. And on behalf of the Eppley and our Eppley PX family, a lot of us are here. Kermit worked for me for 20 years, and in 2 years, you can see just what a big impact he had on you folks. Kermit was one of a kind, and anybody that met him knows that very well. Kermit-isms, Kermit stories. For us, we had Kermit field trips and restaurant storage and SWAT jobs. So anybody who knew Kermit knows he's one of a kind. What you may not know is what a big difference he made for our company. I hired him in 1991. We're a lab over on Dutchtown Road, and we were 5 people. And now we're 200 people, and part of Eppley. And everything we were doing was first time, let's try it, figure it out, and Kermit was the perfect guy to help make that happen. You can imagine in 20 years we've got a lot of good Kermit stories. I want to give a couple, and then I would invite some of our other folks if they wanted to speak up. But just early on, we provided services to utilities, and we'd go out to a plant, a utility customer, and we'd try to solve a problem that the plant had that they were blaming on the utilities. One we did early on in the middle of Nebraska, a company called Agging. They made tractor cabs for farmers to stay warm when they were working their tractors out in the cold weather in the wintertime. And our job, we had 10 or 15 utility guys following us around in an old plant that had evolved, you know, and added on here and added on there. And we were teaching the utility folks, you know, this is a power quality problem, this is good practice, you ought to do this. And I'm awful at that sort of thing, that, you know, on your feet, be entertaining, explain. And Kermit was a beautiful, beautiful thing to watch in that kind of environment. And he did that for us for a number of years, and in our development of the lab over in Knoxville as well. Kathy said that, you know, I was like a father to Kermit, which Kathy made me feel really, really important, and a little bit responsible. Because Kermit we'd always, in big meetings, like, you know, what's going on at work, what are we doing right, what are we doing wrong, you could always, Kermit, what do you think? And what you knew was going to happen, it was going to be, most of the time, pretty funny, but always just bluntly honest. And I think more than anything, that's what we loved about Kermit. That's what I loved about working with Kermit, and I can tell from your speeches, you really appreciate you had the same sort of experience. So I just want to thank you again for this very, very beautiful tribute. And if there's any other folks that want to speak up from our side, provide that chance. Just by the way, we had this, in fact, the 25th anniversary of what we call Power Quality Conference, where we have several hundred utility folks come. We had the 25th last week in Chicago, and we ran the film you folks made, which was very, of Kermit. And, you know, it wasn't Kermit in our lab, but it was the same Kermit. And we showed that to these power quality guys that knew him, some for 20-some years, and told some stories, and it was just, yeah, it was great, and we had that opportunity to do it. And thanks for your, you know, kind of contributing to that.
Well, thank you, Tom. Anybody else? Once? Okay. I'm sorry. Kathy, would you like to say something? By the way, this is the shortest I've ever spoken in front of a bunch of people. Why are you guys laughing?
Maybe the sign high.
Yeah. You see that guy over there, he and I go back 35 years. He built the first piece of equipment this company ever built. I just told him that it still doesn't work. That's Buddy McCullough. He was our first consultant, electrical engineering consultant that we hired. And he was always wrong about everything he told me. I love him. He lives in Florida. He's taking the time to come here. The reason I'm not talking so much because I can't hold myself. I will start crying, so I really can't. Every time I think about Kermit. I want to let you know that this is Kermit's office, and if you want to take a look, what's written on the board is what he wrote last, so we kept it. We kept his office the way it was. He had a lot of accolade. We have boxed those and put it away for Kathy, but other than that, Kermit's office is exactly like it was when he worked here. So after that, please help yourself to a drink here in the building and look around, and then we will move to the next building, Building A, where we are going to have dinner. Is there anything else, buddy? Thank you so much.
First cousin. I just want to thank the company and all those people responsible for putting this together on behalf of Kermit. It's quite an honor for us to be here today. One thing I'll tell you about Kermit, I know more about my family because of Kermit. Kermit did genealogy in our family while he was doing all this other stuff. I don't know how, he's amazing really, how he could do all that and put all that together. So thank you again, for it's quite an honor for us to be here today.
Thank you. Thank you for coming. I appreciate that. Thank you. Anybody else? Okay. All right. Okay, then we are free to walk around and mingle a little bit and then go out to the building gate.